Chapter 604, Visitors from Days City. Xiao Honglian and Xing Tian nodded in agreement to Zhang Yi's request. In the future, we will do whatever you ask us to do. We just hope that you can protect the people in our base and let everyone survive. Xiao Honglian said. Xing Tian looked at Zhang Yi. Zhang, we used to get along pretty well. You won't treat me badly, will you? Zhang Yi smiled. He waved his hand and said, just go about your usual business and wait for my orders. He didn't say much. After all, he didn't have high expectations of the three forces. Besides, no matter how much he asked, if there was a major problem, these guys would also act in their own interests. Loyalty? That's laughable. That kind of thing doesn't exist. It will only be based on Zhang Yi's strength. Xiao Honglian and Xing Tian nodded, then led their subordinates away from Xiaomayashan metro station. Let's go back too. Zhang Yi took out the snowmobile and everyone boarded it and headed back to the shelter. The mood was a little bit tense the whole way. After all, the carefree days were just over. If there were no accidents, a conflict with other cities would soon break out. Why do we always have to fight? It's so tiring. Fat Su sighed with a face full of annoyance. This is the general trend of events. There's nothing we can do about it, Uncle Yu said. The weak are prey to the strong. A society that has lost its civilized state follows the Darwinian law. We can only hope that the Jiangnan region will establish a more comprehensive law as soon as possible to restrain these forces. Zhang Yi sat in the passenger seat, holding his arms, listening to the conversation between the two, and said leisurely, after this battle, we will have much peace. His eyes flashed with a faint light. Zhang Yi could not let the humiliation of those guys from Days City go unpunished. To kill the chicken to warn the monkey, we need a chicken to set an example for the others. This time, I'm going to bring down their chicken coop. The group returned to the shelter, and the few women at home came out to greet them. Zhang Yi and the others had only been gone for a short time, and nothing had happened at home, so everything was as calm as ever. However, when they heard Zhang Yi and the others talk about their experiences in Blizzard City, Zhou Haimei and Yang Mi's faces revealed expressions of helplessness. There's going to be war again. Why can't we just live a good life? Why do we have to fight to the death? I really don't understand what's going on in those people's minds. Zhou Haimei shook her head, looking full of regret. It seemed like she was condemning those people who didn't cherish their good lives and had to fight to the death. Uncle Yu put his arm around her shoulders and smiled reassuringly. Don't worry, no matter how big the problem is, we will take care of it. You just need to do your job at home, don't worry about anything else. Zhang Yi sat on the sofa, and everyone formed a circle in the living room. Zhang Yi directly began to assign tasks. Xinxin, I have already taken over the three powers in Tianhai City. You immediately take over their network systems. Through this, we can keep abreast of the movements in each area of Tianhai City. Yang Xinxin nodded, okay, brother Zhang Yi. Apart from this, I can also try to hack into the network systems of other cities. Zhang Yi froze for a moment, looking at her with surprise. You can do that too? Yang Xinxin nodded with a smile. In the past, it was because there was no need. Our main opponent was in Tianhai City. But now, the forces that threaten our safety have become the forces of other cities, so it is necessary to do so. Except for the network of Blizzard City, which I dare not touch casually, the networks of other cities will not be difficult for me to crack unless they are internal network systems. Although it is the end of the world, the network system has not completely collapsed. After all, there are 6 major national-level superpowers that maintain the infrastructure that supports the country and people's livelihood. And most of these powers are inseparable from communication equipment and a central control system. Then they have to rely on the network, and there will be flaws that Yang Xinxin can find. Zhang Yi's eyes flashed with light. Then try it, hack into the network system of Days City. I want to get their combat power data, preferably information on the supernormal abilities of the aliens. Yang Xinxin smiled slightly, leave this to me. Then, Zhang Yi looked at Lu Karen again. Karen, you have come into contact with a lot of things in Blizzard City recently. For example, that black battle uniform and construction materials. Absorb it well, and the most urgent task is to replicate that battle suit. Zhang Yi was very envious of the training suits in the martial arts arena. It was the first time he had seen clothing that could enhance one's basic physical fitness through clothing. It was probably similar to a human exoskeleton, something Zhang Yi had also seen on the internet. It was just the first time he had seen human exoskeleton technology developed to the level of clothing. With this thing, the overall strength of their team will be greatly enhanced. Even if it is a few girls who are not good at fighting, with it, they will have a little more protection. Roger. Liu Karen gave a playful military salute. Zhang Yi looked at Yang Mi again. Your work still needs to continue, and the more reserved supernormal food you have, the better. Yang Mi nodded coquettishly. I know. I haven't slackened off during this time. Zhang Yi nodded approvingly. That's right. Then, there was the arrangement of defensive work for the others. Nothing special, just to keep them ready for battle at all times. The next day, Zhang Yi and the others received a letter from Ozawa City. The messenger came in 2 snowmobiles, with 10 people in total, all of them extraordinary aliens. During the previous gathering, they had already seen that the major powers in Tianhai City were led by Zhang Yi. So the car drove directly to the vicinity of the shelter. As soon as they arrived, the shelter's artificial intelligence system sent an alert to Zhang Yi. Zhang Yi looked through the surveillance camera and saw the 2 black armored snowmobiles. He immediately guessed that these people were from other cities, because he had never seen the logos on the vehicles before. Zhang Yi quickly changed into his combat uniform and walked out of the room. Liang Yu and Uncle Yu were also fully dressed and came to Zhang Yi's door. Let's go, and see what's going on, Liang Yu said. They are being cautious, stopping 200 meters from the shelter. Judging from their attire, they are not locals. Zhang Yi said as he walked quickly downstairs. I know, they must be people from Days City. Uncle Yu frowned. Are they here to declare war? Declare war? Zhang Yi looked back at Uncle Yu with a smile. Have you ever met anyone who talks about martial arts ethics like this? If they really want to fight, they would tell you in advance. Uncle Yu, then what are they? Zhang Yi laughed playfully. They should be here to intimidate us, so that we surrender without a fight. Chapter 605. High-sounding. After listening to Zhang Yi's words, the expressions on the faces of Uncle Yu and Liang Yu were very strange. Come here to persuade us to surrender? It does make some sense. After all, no matter how badly Tianhai City collapses, there will still be some residual alien power and armed capabilities. If a fight really broke out, and they were driven to the brink, no one would come out unscathed. But, Zhang Yi and the others are not weak. No one really thinks that Zhang Yi and the others are weak, do they? Even a few months ago, Zhang Yi and the others could win against multiple bases attacking with full force. Not to mention now, Zhang Yi's strength has undergone a qualitative change. Even the Epsilon-class Yuan Kongyi was dealt with by Zhang Yi. Who dares to say that they can win against him? I'm afraid that even the strongest few people in Blizzard City don't dare. Zhang Yi's mouth also carried a playful smile. Let's go take a look. Zhang Yi and the others went downstairs, and everyone else in the shelter was waiting for them to come down. With Zhang Yi here, they also had a backbone. Zhang Yi gave a faint smile and said, What are you all looking at? It's fine, everyone just go about your business. Hua Hua jumped onto Zhang Yi's shoulders, and Zhang Yi stroked its soft fur. Uncle Yu and Teacher Liang can just come with me. They were just a bunch of lackeys, why give them face? It would only make Zhang Yi seem like she was afraid of them. The few of them left the shelter and walked towards the direction of the people coming. Zhang Yi slowly opened his right hand in front of him, subspace shield. An invisible, formless circular shield appeared in front of the several people, just in time to block all directions around them. Zhang Yi now has 3 defensive uses for the subspace gate. The subspace gate has the largest defensive range and the strongest defensive power, but it cannot be moved. The subspace shield has a small defensive range and medium defensive power, but it can be used flexibly and is suitable for close-range defense. The two-world absolute knot has the smallest defensive range, but it can form an all-round and seamless defense, while the spherical shape causes the dimensional gate to distort, resulting in the weakest defense. He needs to carefully choose between these abilities according to the situation. Several people stepped on the snow and walked slowly towards the two cars. There were 10 heavily armed fighters in the car over there, also cautiously staring at this place. Seeing Zhang Yi and the others walking over, a burly foreigner with a beard said leisurely, "They're coming over." A companion poked his head out of the window and said nonchalantly after just a glance, "Hurry up and hand them the letter, then we can go back. Don't waste time in a place like this." A skinny monkey in the back seat patted his shoulder and laughed, "It's a rare visit, don't be in such a hurry. This place will be our territory from now on." The man shrugged and said, "I hope they know better." The several people were chatting and didn't take Zhang Yi and the others seriously. Because they all thought that Tianhai City had already been destroyed long ago, and the remaining strength was completely unable to compete with the 3 major organizations in Linhai City. Zhang Yi and the others walked up to them. "Who are you and what are you doing here?" Zhang Yi asked in a deep voice. The bearded man in charge narrowed his eyes and looked at Zhang Yi. "Are you Zhang Yi?" Zhang Yi nodded, "That's right." The bearded man smiled and reached into his pocket to take out a craft paper document bag. "We are from Days City and are messengers for the 3 major powers there. The leaders of our 3 powers have a letter for you, and we hope you will read it carefully." He handed the document bag to Zhang Yi and reminded him, "Oh yes, there's also contact information on it. After you figure it out, send an email to this address." Zhang Yi gave a faint smile and reached out, and the email disappeared into his other world. Several other people from Days City whistled when they saw this. "Wow, it's actually a rare spatial ability. Not bad." However, the mocking and taunting expressions on their faces clearly showed that they did not take Zhang Yi seriously. The bearded man continued speaking to Zhang Yi, "You have 1 day to make a decision. That means, well, there are only 19 hours left from now. After all, we have to deduct the time it took us to get here." Zhang Yi did not say a word, and the bearded man touched his forehead with 2 fingers and said, "Well, goodbye. Good luck." A group of alien soldiers got into their car with a smile, then started the snowmobile and drove off with a rumble. Uncle Yu looked a little resentful, and came up to Zhang Yi and said, "Why didn't you finish them off? These guys are so arrogant." Zhang Yi just calmly said, "I'm not interested in small fish. And if we attack rashly, it will only make the enemy guard against us. Let's see what they say first." Zhang Yi watched the foreigners from Ozawa City leave before turning and walking towards the shelter. Uncle Yu took a deep breath and looked at Zhang Yi's back, his gaze revealing deep admiration. He is only in his 20s, but when things happen, he can remain so calm and forbearing. This is really rare. Liang Yu said teasingly, "Isn't there a saying that goes, a dog that bites doesn't bark?" Zhang Yi's voice suddenly came from afar, "Don't think that just because I'm far away I can't hear what you're saying." Liang Yu was scared and quickly covered her mouth. I wasn't talking about you behind your back." Zhang Yi raised an eyebrow and looked back at her as she walked towards him. "It would be even more inappropriate to say it to your face." Liang Yu's face flushed slightly. "This is clearly a compliment, saying that you are stable." "I'll pretend that you're complimenting me." Zhang Yi shook her head in disbelief. She was a teacher, but her way of praising people was so unique. I almost forgot that she was a PE teacher." After Zhang Yi returned to the shelter, she immediately asked Zhou to go to the infirmary with her. First, they tested the file bag to make sure it was safe before opening it. Safety awareness is essential. Even powerful aliens can die easily. Back inside the shelter, Zhou tested the file bag and confirmed that there was nothing wrong with it. Zhang Yi used tweezers to open the file bag and carefully removed the documents inside. There was only 1 piece of paper inside, a handwritten letter addressed to Zhang Yi. Zhang Yi placed the letter on the table, put on his tactical helmet, and leaned over to read it. After reading the letter, a meaningful smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. What was written inside was very simple. It was to the effect that Sun Jianming, Chen Lianyu and Gu Hongdai had submitted a letter of intent to help them defend Tianhai City. Tianhai City has now experienced a bitter war and suffered heavy losses in population, and the several major local forces are unable to defend it. As friendly neighbors, the three major forces of Linhai City are willing to come and help defend it in the spirit of humanitarianism. Please do not decline. Zhang Yi couldn't help but laugh, and his laughter grew louder and louder. What a lofty reason. These people are really interesting. If I'm not wrong, they used to work in the same unit. Hearing Zhang Yi's laughter, Zhou Kuo and the others couldn't help but come over to ask him what was going on. Zhang Yi asked everyone to come and see the content of the letter. I have to say, these guys are really clever. If they use this kind of tactic, even if the Jiangnan region wants to accuse them afterwards, they will have a reason to respond.